Susumu Kobayashi was a Japanese American who, along with his family, lived for nearly 15 years on the Fabyan Estate. He took care of the Japanese garden as master gardener, as well as overseeing the greenhouses and generally taking care of the Fabyan property as a gardener. Susumu Kobayashi, known as Oscar by Riverbank staff, was born March 13, 1892. He was from the town of Harada, Japan, a lush mountainous region 150 miles northwest of Tokyo. He came to America in 1914 to work on his cousin's farm in Florida. That cousin's farm was part of an agricultural community called Yamato near present-day Palm Beach. It was the idea of a 29-year-old Japanese man named Joe Sakai in 1903. Sakai was a recent graduate of New York University who convinced Florida politicians and businessmen he could transform Florida's agriculture into a profitable endeavor. It became a success, and Sakai was soon recruiting many young, single Japanese men to farm. In 1917, Susumu Kobayashi traveled to Detroit to work at the automobile factories for a work-study program. Unfortunately, World War I put a damper on his plans and halted the work-study program, so Susumu made his way to Chicago. He applied for the job of gardener and was hired by Colonel George Fabyan to work at Riverbank. Susumu worked for 2 years at Riverbank, lived in a room above the dog kennels with roommate Jim Kirkpatrick, and made $35 a month. He saved his pay, and by 1920 had come back to Yamato and started a gardening business. Doing well for the past 2 years, like many men in Yamato, his brother arranged for a marriage for him to Suye Matsumoto. Suye was a young woman of 20 and from the town of Iya in the southwest part of Japan. The marriage took place on July 19, 1922, and they soon returned to Yamato. In 1923, they welcomed their first daughter, Sumiko. When Sumiko was 2, they left Yamato to go back to Riverbank at Colonel Fabyan's request. Susumu became the manager of the greenhouses and the highly profitable cut flower business, as well as maintaining the grounds of the Japanese garden, which was built in 1910. While living at Riverbank, he and Suye had 2 more children, a son named Noboru in 1926 and daughter Michiko in 1929. The family lived in a home on the estate north of the villa that was attached to an old carriage house that had housed the Italian artist Silvio Silvestri's studio before. By all accounts, the children had a privileged upbringing living at Riverbank. They attended the local Geneva 6th Street school, played with Nell's dogs, and befriended the animals in the Colonel's menagerie. After Nell's death in 1939 and the sale of the estate, the Kobayashi family moved to San Leandro, California, in search of work and greener pastures. In May of 1942, the family was violently uprooted from their home and were moved to Topaz, Utah, under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order 9066. As a reaction to Pearl Harbor, over 120,000 Japanese Americans were forced to relocate to one of 10 different internment camps around the United States. The Kobayashi family were released in 1944 and eventually relocated to Wallingford, Pennsylvania, where Susumu started a gardening business. He retired in 1963 at the age of 71. Susumu saw his son Noboru serve in the military and eventually become an architect. His children got married, and he met several of their children as well. Susumu Kobayashi passed away in December of 1975 at the age of 83. Noboru, Sumiko, and Michiko have all visited Fabyan since their childhoods and shared with us these stories, gifts given to their family, and memories of their time at the Fabyan Estate.